As always, check with your DM first, but for this build, we are at least going to discuss variant channeling options. Hello there, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. We are going to be taking a look at the channeling options that you have for the first edition Pathfinder Cleric. Now, I should mention that these options, because they are a variant and not included in the base version of the Cleric, they are something that is going to be worth checking with your DM on if they are comfortable with allowing them in the game. Personally, I wouldn't really mind it. They're not really huge in their effects, or at least not all of them are, and most of them feel pretty fitting in how they are applied. We'll cover what it normally does, how they broadly, generally affect the channeling ability, and then to get into more specifics, we are going to cover 3 of these variant options. One is going to be a great option, the second one is going to be good, the third is just going to be kind of okay, and then we're going to just expand on this a little bit, why I feel pretty comfortable with this, and also broaching on a topic when it comes to alignment and channeling, and the specifically the 2 energy types that you're typically restricted to, and how I'm not always the biggest fan of that. But before we get into all of that, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. Now, let's start talking about this. Now, when channeling, normally your choice is between channeling positive, healing energy or negative, harmful energy. Once that choice is made, it's irreversible. Now, I'd say under most circumstances that holds true, but if a cleric were to end up changing their alignment, swearing oaths to a new deity, I would just convert everything over for them right then and there, because it's really the choice on the energy being channeled that is what's normally permanent. But if you've switched over to a different god, you are getting a different source of energy and you're switching your alignment with it, so it is fitting in that instance. However, variant channeling introduces new effects that alter some aspects of how the channeled energy functions. Usually you heal or harm for half as much, but with added effects that go on board with it. What effects depend on your deity and your domain choice, and if those particular domains fall underneath your deity's normal sphere of influence, their portfolio, with any bonuses either counting as sacred or profane, starting at a +1 and increasing by 1 every 5 levels of cleric. Of course, exceptions apply where stated otherwise. So this can introduce some interesting effects overall. Some of them can be incredibly powerful, others just kind of okay, and this is relative compared to one another, or at least the base version of channeling. So, for our first option that we're going to take a look at that has great choices whichever way you decide to go, we are going to take a look at the city domain. First, the healing option. Creatures gain a bonus on attack rolls when flanking and to armor class when flanked until the end of your next turn. That's pretty nice. It doesn't sound that powerful, but when you consider that this is counting as a sacred bonus to attack rolls, that is going to count and stack with the +2 flanking bonus you're normally getting already. So starting off with a +3, or by the time you hit level 5, if you get to another +1 there, you're looking at a +4 bonus to attack rolls when flanking. Your party's rogues, the vigilantes, whoever is getting sneak attack dice is going to really love having this bonus in place. Even better that they're getting a bonus to their armor class when they're getting flanked, so you're at least at level 5 going to be negating that +2 bonus that is normally given for attacking a target that is flanked. So all the way around, that's a pretty good choice here, but even better if you decided to pick the harm option. All creatures, squares, and threatened areas are treated as difficult terrain until the start of your next turn. Creatures gain a penalty on acrobatics and overrun attempts to move through these squares. This effect moves with the creatures and is not fixed in place. this is some incredible crowd control. This is some incredible area denial, and it just makes opponents' maneuvering and positioning incredibly difficult. This is a huge advantage here if you've chosen to channel negative energy. I mean, this is just astoundingly good, and is certainly a powerful option to have. And best of all, while this is a powerful effect, the fact that it's limited to generally on a one-turn basis, either till the end of your next turn or the start of your next turn, while it lets these effects be powerful, but not something that is going to be so broken that it's continually sustained without you expending usage of your channel ability. Then we come to the ale and wine option. This is good to great, and good to great depending on which route you've decided to go. The heal option is pretty good. Creatures ignore nauseated and sickened conditions and ability drain from poisons until the end of your next turn. What keeps this from being great is that you're just ignoring the conditions until the end of your next turn. These conditions are not gone unless they are going to end by the time it's the end of your next turn, which doesn't seem like it's the most likely. Not impossible, but this limits it to being a bit more situational, limited usefulness. Great in the moment, but it's not something that's going to be sustained in its usefulness. Whereas the harm option, creatures are nauseated for one round, and nauseated makes it so that the target can't attack, cast spells, concentrate on spells, or anything requiring attention. They can only take one move action per turn. That's staggeringly bad. So being able to ignore the nauseating condition for one turn, it's still good. It is still a good thing to have. It's just unfortunate that it doesn't just end them for the round. But whereas the harm option, though, this is going to make creatures nauseated for one round. No real mention of a save there. And also, even if your DM stipulates that a save is going to be allowed, this is a Nova area of effect that is centered on yourself. So you're potentially making multiple creatures nauseated for a whole round. And if the target happens to be a wizard or sorcerer, somebody with typically poor fortitude saves, even if your DM does allow them to have a save, they stand a pretty decent chance of succumbing to this and having their most significant abilities taken out of commission for one whole round. A whole round of a full spellcasting class not being able to cast their magic is incredibly good. This is awesome to have, and it definitely outshines the heal option. Next, for the poorest option, this is something that you would only take in an instance where it fits. It fits the deity, it fits the cleric, but overall it's terrible. These abilities are just awful. That's the trickery domain, and we have the heal option, in which creatures gain a channel bonus on bluff, disguise, sleight of hand, and stealth checks for 1 minute. The harm option, creatures gain a channel penalty on perception and sense motive checks for 1 minute. Now, here's the thing with this. I'm not sure how subtle your channeling effects are, particularly since you have to present your holy symbol typically in some way. Now, being a DM myself and thinking, okay, this is a trickery domain, this is something related to a trickster god or a god that has some measure of deception in their description, maybe I would allow a cleric of this particular faith with this domain that selected this variant channeling that went with the harm route. I would say maybe they could get away with doing this a little bit more subtly, but overall, this just isn't great, because up from first level to level 4, at least till you hit level 5, this is a +1 bonus and a -1 penalty. By the time you hit level 5, it's a -2 penalty. I mean, sure, it doesn't hurt, but in comparison to the other choices that you have, you can see where this is pretty lackluster and disappointing. Like, maybe if this made them susceptible to failing their saving throws against, say, illusory effects or charm effects, something like that. That could be quite a bit better in that regard. That's actually head and shoulders above these particular penalties and bonuses. Like, something like that would work much better. But as it is, these aren't very good, but these different channeling options do bring something up for me. The fact that these options are locked off depending on if you're channeling positive or negative energy, and those being typically restricted by alignment. I just don't really like that overall, but then again, channeling is limited to healing living creatures harming the undead, or healing the undead and harming living creatures in a Nova area of effect, and that feels very limiting, especially with the variant channeling options thrown up in the face of it. Really, what you could look to try to do is working with your DM to try to homebrew some fixes to channeling overall, because man, some of these options, especially the city domain, where if you select the harm option and you're creating difficult terrain, that's a benefit to a lot of different kinds of clerics. It seems unfortunate that it's limited to evil clerics overall, and it gives them a distinct advantage over their good aligned counterparts. But it's just one of those things where we touch upon the limits of being tied to the alignment system overall. I think it is useful in many instances and certainly can be used for some compelling storytelling and some interesting game effects and mechanics, but it definitely feels to me like this is an area where it falls short, and I wouldn't blame DMs. Hell, I might even recommend to some DMs that you consider loosening some of these restrictions, at least with some of these abilities. Maybe even just limiting the ability to cause healing for undead or damage to allies, and just trading it out for something else entirely overall. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Do you allow variant channeling? Is this something that you've requested of your DM? And do you do anything to kind of fix it or homebrew it and make it just a little bit more flexible so that these different variations on channeling abilities and powers can apply to a broader range of different clerics of different alignment types? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and we'll happily engage in discussion about it, much as I'm able to with everything going on. And hell, if you've made it this far, you must have enjoyed something, so why not go down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamers Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time. Good gaming to you all, and you all have yourselves a good night.